apologize,
On Mayor Pro Tem Clark, who is away on business, and as Manager Madrid and my fellow commissioners, we'd like to welcome you all to our meeting of Wednesday, July 10th, 2019. It is just a little before 9 o'clock, but I thought I would call this meeting to order. Madam Clerk, would you please call roll?
Honorable Sandra Whitehead.
Here.
Honorable Kathy Clark is absent. Honorable Rolf Fischler.
Present.
Honorable Paul Baca.
Here.
Honorable George Cicchetti.
Here.
Madam Mayor, we have a quorum.
Thank you. At this time, I'd like to ask everyone to please join me for 15 seconds of silent meditation. Thank you. The next item on our agenda this morning is the pledge. Commissioner Cicchetti, would you please lead us in the Pledge of Allegiance?
I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Thank you. The next item on our agenda this morning is the approval of the agenda. Do I have a motion to approve the agenda as submitted, or are there changes?
Mayor Whitehead, I'd like to make a motion to approve the agenda for July 10th, 2019, with the following exception, and that is to remove item F1, City Commission Special Workshop Meeting Minutes for May 29th, 2019. I'd like to review these. I haven't had a chance to do that, and maybe we can see it on next meeting's agenda.
Thank you. Do I have a second?
Second.
I have a motion and a second to approve the agenda for July 10th, 2019, with the exception of removing F1 from the consent calendar, which is the City Commission Special Workshop Meeting Minutes for May 29th, 2019. Are there any further questions, comments, or concerns? Hearing none, all those in favor signify by saying aye. Aye. Those opposed, same sign. Motion carries. The next item on our agenda this morning is presentations. We have item C1, presentation of promotion of Officer Anthony Zagorski to Parole Sergeant. Randall Aragon. Patrol Sergeant, not Parole Sergeant.
Mayor, being that we're early, he's coming.
Sorry, okay.
We had 2 minutes left, though.
Okay.
Mayor, at this time, while we're waiting, I would like to introduce our new finance director. Carol Kirkpatrick, would you please step up and tell us a little bit about yourself? Carol Kirkpatrick is our new finance director.
Thank you. Good morning. As I told Mr. Madrid yesterday, I don't like to be the center of attention. That's why I'm in accounting. No, I'm so glad to be back home. I graduated here, went to school, been away for about 30 years, and have recently retired from one job and started this one. So I'm thrilled to be here. Stop by anytime. My door will always be open. We're going to build us a really great customer-friendly department, and I look forward to working with all of you.
Thank you, Carol, and welcome aboard.
Thank you.
Thanks, Carol.
Well, and another item that I will cover real quick before we get started, we do have some new equipment that is on display outside in the parking lot. For those of you that have noticed this morning, we have a, a side loader, freight line side loader. I know we had a Challenger loader refuse, and so if everyone would like to look at it, it's out here in the corner of the parking lot. So please, during the morning or during your leave, when you leave the building, if you will go out and look at it. I'm sure Andy's pretty proud of his new machine. Thank you, Andy. Thank you, Tracy. All right.
Mayor, Commissioners, City Manager, Renee, here, Anthony, come up here, please. He has served 6.5 years with our police department. Anthony has served as Sierra County dispatcher for 2.5 years. His family, his father has been in law enforcement. In fact, his close friend who's going to do the pinning, he's in law enforcement, retired. And if something goes on in the city, this guy knows where it's at and who's the bad guy, who the good guy is. So with that, if your friend come up here. Here's the badge. You got the pins? Here. All right. Over here. Congratulations, Sergeant Anthony Zagorski.
Congratulations again. Okay, the next item on our agenda this morning is item D, public comment. Do I have any public comment this morning?
You got the short straw.
I got the short straw
You
today?
got me.
Okay, Carol.
Carol Wheeler, Corbett Street, TRC, on behalf of the dog park. Just some good news. The foundation sent an email today saying they've been gone for a month and a half and they're back, and will be sending a check for the full amount of the mural at the dog park. So it's a total go, and depending on Mother Nature, we hope to get started real soon. So, and I'd like to thank the city for Mr. O.J. And his crew doing such a wonderful job of maintaining the dog park and keeping it grass cut and such. It's been great working with them too. Thank you.
Thank you, Ms. Carol. Do I have any other public comment this morning? Well, I do. I have one item that I do want to discuss now at public comment. On June 28th, which was a Friday, the city honored the employees with a barbecue, and the employees were awarded years of service awards along with service pins. So I would just like to recognize these employees. 5 years. Angela Torres, she had 5+ years. William Montoya, 5+ years. Margaret Clanton, 5+ years. Erica Baker, 5+ years. Anthony Zagorski, 5+ years. Scott Huron, 5+ years. Sonia Williams, Brian Bean, 5+ years. Robert Waldron Jr., 5+ years. Under the 10-year category, we had Becky Rodriguez, 10+ years. Karen Salcido, 10+ years. Tracy Burnett, David Johnson, 10+. Ted Ontiveros, 10+. Silka Capella, 10+. Jesus Navarro, 10+. Timothy Hanna, 10+. Under the 15-year category, Bo Easley, 15+. Retha Germain, Shannon Crowder, 15+. Otto Viana, 15+. Under 20 years of service, Pat Wood, 20+. Kenny Moran, 20+. Peter Baca, 20+. Michael Montoya, 20+. Andy Alvarez, Scott Eversole, 20+. Benny Fuentes, Merced Baca, 20+. Buster Smith, 20+. Leo Martinez, 20+. Under the 25 years of service with the City of Truth or Consequences, Pat O'Hanlon, who's in the library, and Judge Sanders, she had 25+ years. So congratulations to each and every one of you employees. Thank you for your long years of service and your dedication to the City of Truth or Consequences. And so that ends my public comment. Is there any other public comment at this time? Any other public comment? Okay, we will move on now to the next item, which is item D, item E, response to public comment. Is there any response to public comment? Manager Madrid.
Mayor, Commissioners, I want to summarize my town hall meeting from the last meeting that I had in lieu of our public comment. For this one, I'm not going to mention the names because I think I'm going to need to remind the public when they sign up and they come and visit with me that these are public record. But there were some things said criticizing people, organizations, and things like that that maybe wouldn't happen if someone understood that this is part of the public record. So with that, I'm just going to call them a person. First person came to me concerned about the amount of money that we spend on certified mail for code enforcement. And it can be substantial. It can be in the thousands of dollars. I did explain that it's a necessary part of the procedure, that when we do get into legal proceedings and we go to municipal court or any other court, we have to have proof of service. We have to have proof that the person was notified of the violations. That's the primary way that we can prove that they were made aware of the violations and need to address them. The other issue that was brought up by this person were weeds and code enforcement. In some areas it's a valid concern. In some areas it isn't. I asked the person to contact me with more specific information. I haven't heard from that person yet. The next person brought me a petition requesting the Department of Transportation to do a traffic study regarding the intersection at Foch and Main. I explained that I thought that had already been done, but I did agree to accept her petition and forward it to the Department of Transportation just in case. I don't think we should just say no just because we think something's been taken care of. If it's going to make a difference to hear it again, then the DOT could hear it again. The next person brought the concern to me regarding people's taking pride of ownership in their own property. He was concerned with the areas close to parks and the golf course, and recommended that the DOT take over some of our streets because they have more resources to improve them and take care of them. I did explain to him that the DOT would only accept or take over streets that were arteries or for state thoroughfares to connect them, extend them, or improve them. Our residential areas are not going to be part of that. Also, he was against the way that the city realigned our two main streets into one-ways and thought they should both be two-way streets, each one. Next person came to me about litter and dog poop in a street area between Broadway and Rotary. He's concerned that owners are allowing their dogs to stop and poop there and not having a trash can to dispose of it. So we're looking into that. That seemed to be a valid concern, and I thanked her for bringing that to our attention. I had the next person brought a list of things to me to discuss. One of them was the reactivation of the Recreation and Entertainment Board, who are in charge of our center and other facilities. Uh, He also recommended promoting the golf course more within our local businesses, such as the bathhouses, putting together brochures or door hangers. He also asked if we have a sister city in Mexico to promote our city as kind of a bilateral tourism destination so that we could visit them and they could visit us. I'm not aware that we have that. I haven't seen it for Mexico. I've seen some New Mexico cities have sister cities in Cuba, but I haven't seen it in Mexico. If anyone has any information about that, come and see me, please. I haven't found anything. He said we used to have a summer youth program for kids to work at the golf course. They could use some help out there, and the youth could use some jobs. And we did have a couple of youth that came over that we sent to the Department of Workforce Solutions, because not only are they helpful, but the state will pay their salaries too. So we're looking into that. I think we're going to have at least one out at the golf course. He also brought to my attention the issue regarding the update of some city ordinances. He talked to me in particular about our master plan, and so I discussed a couple of things with him. That was one of them. The other one was our personnel policy. This person is pretty well versed in policy and planning and government, so I'm actually going to recruit him as a volunteer to help me review some of the drafts that I've been working on. The other thing was Tank Hill. He said the tank is empty. Maybe there's something that we could do to make better use out of it. And he was talking about the inside in particular. The next person brought up some issues that were negative. I'm only going to mention them just to reiterate that any discussions we have are as if we had them in here. This person wished that people that came in from out of town wouldn't try and change the way we are. They should just either like us or move back. She suggested that the transfer station be open on Saturdays. The Faux Street improvements from Main Street, she thought it was a very, very bad idea, and made some comments about Main Street that I'm not going to repeat. There was a concern about the width of Faux Street and the accessibility of buses. I don't think that we've had that issue there. The project that's going to be undertaken on Faux Street is not going to impact the turning radius of any of the intersections. So that project is not going to inhibit the accessibility of buses. The width of the street may be a little bit less, but as the buses turn, the intersection width will stay the same. She also suggested more events, and did have an issue with air conditioning in a building that she volunteers in, and did compliment David Johnson on getting that rectified real quickly. She also stated her opposition to the roundabouts that the DOT is planning for our city. And that's about it, Mayor.
Thank you, Manager Madrid. And to let everyone know, these notes stem from our public meeting, which was held after our last meeting. As I have suggested that the first meeting of the month, we will have public comment, but the second meeting of the month, we will not have public comment, but folks wishing to give public comment or speak with the manager can do so here in the chambers starting at 6 o'clock on the day of the meeting, after the meeting. Thank you. Thank you again. At this time, I'm going to go back to public comment because I see that there were 3 other folks that came in after we had concluded, so at this time, I will open it back up for public comment. Does anyone else wish to give public comment at this time?
Good morning, Mayor, City Commissioners, and Renee. I want to just bring up a subject that I think is very important at this time, and that is the spaceport proposals that we've seen that suggest that they really are going to fly this year. And I think one asset that we have that we're not making the most of is the airport. A lot of the people that will be coming to the spaceport, both workers and others, fly their own planes. And I'm sure a lot of them, some of them, I hope, will find it better to live here than in cruises. We have more to offer if they're looking at the recreation side. And the airport would become a serious asset that we should be doing more with. We don't have a lot of time. I know that a couple of years ago, I think it might even be more, Gary Whitehead put forward a proposal to make it a free trade zone out there. And I've spoken to him about this, and I think it's a great idea. It is a space that is not surrounded by other buildings or other property that is going to influence that, so we have an actual restricted area that could be put to. It would mean that we could induce more of those people to go there and maybe lease land from the city. You could offer them to lease some piece of land where they can build storage or build a place for parking their vehicles so they can fly in and out and have a vehicle there and move on. And we are a lot closer to the spaceport. So using the airport to our advantage, I think, is one of the many things that we should be looking at doing to make ourselves a little more attractive to the people that are going to be working out there, flying out there. I think it would be a great idea. So I'd appreciate if you look into that and see what the advantages of that would be. And I thank you for your time.
Thank you, Hans.
Have a good day.
Thank you. All right, the next item on our agenda this... Oh, yes.
Thank you, Ron Fan, Truth or Consequences. I really don't like coming here to speak to you because I don't like looking at blank faces. But that being said, I brought you a gift. I brought you a gift. I want you to think about this for the next month. I'll talk about it next month. This is the logo. This would be the motto of the City Commission. Never back down. Think about the implications of that, because that's what's been going on for so many years in this commission chamber. Bad decisions made, but never back down. Keep paying and paying and paying. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 public hearings today, all about borrowing money or begging for money. While one of the items on the workshop for future consideration was stopping the loss of residents, taking off the issue. Well, maybe if there's no residents here, maybe then just tourists will come here and visit a ghost town, because that's what will be here. The city is ignoring the fact that we, in spite of all of this nonsense about tourism, this place turns people away. It turns them away. You're looking at improving tourism signs, and yet you're ignoring the anti-tourism illegal signs that do a great deal more damage than any possible benefit can come from tourism signs. Clean up this city. But you know what? You are responsible for a great deal of the illegal signage in the city. You allow it, for your buddies, you allow it for yourselves, you ignore the code, and you'll do nothing about it. I think it's very interesting. So think about this. We'll talk about it next month when I come back, since I only have 3 minutes a month now. And also, I'm going to give you a copy of a letter that I sent to the New Mexico Finance Authority in 2017 about money and why they should not give you money. Okay, talk more about that later. Thank you.
Is there any further public comment at this time?
Good morning, Lieutenant Baker, TRC Police Department Commissioners, Mayor, City Manager. First, I'd like to say thank you guys for all you do. It's hard a lot of times, especially being a police officer, getting the, I guess, lashing from the community, but it happens. The reason I'm speaking today is we had a complaint come in last night to dispatch about our animals at the shelter and the conditions there. Since I don't really get a chance to speak to the people that call in, because usually most of the time they don't call me, I would like to assure the public that the animals at the shelter are very well taken care of. Maribel Dalrymple and her staff are doing a fantastic job. We have got a huge influx of cats and kittens at the shelter right now. The complaint was about the cats standing in their own feces, and I can explain that. The cats that they're seeing when they walk in are the feral cats that we cannot handle. So when we do have to handle them, they're usually the last ones that we clean, and we have to get a special tool to get their feces and stuff out because they stay in the cages that we catch them in because they are they can't be handled. They injure my staff, they'll injure themselves, and then that opens up to other stuff that we have to take care of. These cats are going to barns. All the feral cats are going to barns, so we're not putting any of these animals down. So I assure the person that complained, they're not being mistreated. This is procedure. This is the process how we handle feral cats. It's to keep the cats safe. It's to keep my staff safe. And the cats that aren't feral, they do have litter boxes. They are being cleaned every day, and we do change the litter at least once a week. So again, I assure the commission and the public that the animals are being well taken care of and that my staff is doing the best job that they can with them. Thank you.
Thank you. Is there any further public comment this morning? Hearing none, is there any response to public comments? Hearing none.
Madam Mayor.
Yes.
Yeah,
Commissioner Zagini.
I'd just like to make one comment. So if people are being driven away from truth or consequences, as Mr. Fenn implies, why is it that there are people coming here to town that can't find apartments to stay in because all the apartments are rented? Why is it that the realtors are all reporting that housing sales are up? We had a couple here just a few meetings ago talking about building new apartments here in town. There is a new complex going up over there on Poplar. There's people here investing money. They're building new facilities, and I personally have talked to at least 6 people since the beginning of the year who have, within that time, moved into town. So I find that a baseless comment. I just wanted to make that part of the record. Thank you.
Thank you, Commissioner Zaghetti. Is there any further response to public comment? Seeing and hearing none, I will now move on to the next item on our agenda, which is item F, consent calendar. And the consent calendar consists of F2, City Commission Special Workshop Meeting Minutes, May 30th, 2019. F3, City Commission Regular Minutes, June 12th, 2019. F4, City Commission Regular Minutes, June 26th, 2019. F5, Acknowledged Library Advisory Board Minutes, June 24th, 2019. and F6, accounts payable for June 2019.
Mayor,
Manager?
item F1 was removed.
Yes,
Okay.
we removed that one.
Okay, I'm sorry.
No,
thought you mentioned
I
it
started
again.
F2 to F6.
I'll pay attention.
Thank you, thank you. Do I have any further questions, comments, or concerns? Does anything need to be moved separately to be discussed? If not, do I have a motion to approve the consent calendar?
Madam Mayor, I move to approve the consent calendar as you have read.
Thank you. Do I hear a second? I have a motion and a second to approve the consent calendar of F2 through F6. Is there any further questions, comments, or concerns? Hearing none, all those in favor signify by saying aye. Aye. Those opposed, same sign. Motion carries. The next item on our agenda this morning is public hearings. Looks like we have 5 public hearings. I have sign-up sheets if anyone here needs to sign up as a proponent or an opponent. If you haven't done so and wish to do so, they are right here. And we will start with our first public hearing this morning. G1, public hearing, discussion, action, final adoption of ordinance number 702, amending the Code of Ordinances by adding a section related to sale of real property pursuant to NMS A 1978 3-54-1. City Manager Madrid.
Mayor, Commissioners, I'd like to call up Tracy Burnett to give us the background on this item, and I'll also call on Jay for the help of the procedure.
Good morning, Mayor, Commissioners. So this property, we brought this, the first portion of it to you guys in the prior meeting. This is for a city-owned property that is up behind the Matson area, and we had a offer to purchase on that property. And with that, I'll turn it over to Jay.
Yes, good morning, everyone. Yes, there were some preliminary discussions had between the city and AD Southwest, and the proposed agreement was that AD Southwest was going to be buying the property from us for $70,000 cash pursuant to the purchase agreement, which has been attached to the proposed ordinance. Now, we are selling this property pursuant to the statute 3-54-1, and as our common practice is, we obtain an appraisal on the property, and the property was appraised at $70,000. What that does is that because the appraised value is more than $25,000, we couldn't just do a more informal procedure of selling the property. You have to go through the ordinance procedure. So we already have, we had this in the agenda 2 meetings ago. We approved this matter to go to publication, the proposed ordinance. We've now gone through the publication process, and now it's coming back to you for final hearing and for consideration of the ordinance for final adoption. So the ordinance is in front of you, and it basically describes the fact that we had an appraisal obtained from Eric Van Pelt back on February 5th, 2019, which he determined the appraised value was determined to be $70,000, and that's basically what the deal is. We'd be selling the property at the appraised value, so we don't have to concern ourselves with any reason as to why we're going below appraised value, because that doesn't apply here. It was already agreed pursuant to the purchase agreement that the closing costs will be divided equally. So one expense I anticipate we will be having, I guess, the buyer is going to be insisting, I guess, on a policy. I think it's already been agreed to pursuant to the agreement, but we'll have to share that, I suppose. Just as an aside, usually when I draw these agreements up, I usually make it clear we're not making any representations on condition of the property or the title, but in this case, since it's already negotiated that way, and since I realize this is for a greater amount than what we usually do, then that's something we just, I guess, we need to go along with. But very important, though, is paragraph C, which is on page 2, and I wrote a paragraph here that says, the purchaser acknowledged that he is buying the property in an as-is condition, and the city has made no warranties or representations regarding the real property, nor whether the real property can be used for any particular purpose. And that's important because by us agreeing to the sale of the property, we're not necessarily agreeing about how the property can be used or really what it's suitable for. There may be some zoning issues that may arise later on, and you may have some issues that concern you if an application comes before you. So just by us agreeing to make the sale, we're not making any representations as to what the property will be used for, can be used for. And that's something the commission may have a hand in later on. I understand AD Southwest is aware of this, and they're okay with that.
Correct, they are in the audience today as well.
Oh, okay. Now, I have to point something else out to you, though. In fact, I was sitting here this morning here while I was just looking at this. There is one type of one here that I just need to make sure we're clear on. If we go back and look at the description, I took the description of paragraph B from of some language in the appraisal, and you'll see it says East 2nd Street when actually it should be West 2nd. Now, I don't think that really uniformly is a problem that we have to go back to the publication, because later in that paragraph, I do describe the properties between Copper Street and Locust Street, so it's clear that section of town is on the West 2nd, is on West 2nd as opposed to East 2nd. But more importantly, I attached the sales agreement, purchase agreement to the ordinance and made that part of the ordinance, and that clearly does use the word west in that particular description. So I think what we can do is, if you're inclined to go along with the agreement, you can approve the ordinance, subject to making that one change.
Thank you, Attorney Rubin. Commissioners, do you have any questions or comments? I do have one proponent in the office, or in the audience, opponent, excuse me, Ron Fenn. You signed up as an opponent for this ordinance?
Yes, I just want to make a comment about the fact that, very interestingly, the city is going through public hearing for the sale of $70,000 sale of 7.16 acres of land. That's about $10,000 an acre. And yet the city violated this very same ordinance or the statute in the lease of the Lee Bell Johnson 4 years ago, which is worth a great deal more money. The city is going to get $70,000. Big deal. The city is losing $20,000 in rent a year just on the spaceport section by not following 354-1. Why are we playing games in this city with state statutes? Why are we using them when it's favorable, when we can do something for somebody, and yet for the people of this community, we will violate the statutes at will for the benefit of a handful of people? I think this is an example of what's wrong with the governance of this community. And you guys are the ones that need to straighten it out. And I'm telling you that you need to straighten it out now. Because otherwise, what is left? And I wish I could respond to Mr. Zaghetti, but I know I can't, even though I have the microphone.
Let's stay on topic, please.
Yes,
We're here
on
on this
topic. I know
ordinance.
there is no response
Thank
to
you.
response to
Thank you.
public comment. Okay, that's all I have to say about this particular ordinance.
Thank you, Ron.
Thank you.
Okay, at this time, if there's no further questions or comments, I will close this public hearing.
Madam Mayor, actually, Ms. Burnett actually just whispered something to me.
Okay.
Even though he didn't sign up for it, their realtor, Madam Mayor, was in the audience, and he actually the one actually signed this. So ordinarily, with pretty hard, you have to sign these things up. Since I know you're here, it's like an important issue, then I would be okay with him testifying what he needs to do.
All right. If I can get you to come up and sign this, and then you can go ahead and speak, please. Thank you.
Good morning. I just want to apologize first. I didn't know the house rules when I came in. It's my first time to attend one of your city commission meetings, and thank you for hearing me today, commissioners. city manager, city attorney, chief of police, and all the members in the audience. I just want to introduce myself. My name is Matt Romero. I'm a multi-generational resident of New Mexico. My great-grandfather homesteaded land here in New Mexico, so we've been here forever. We're not newcomers or coming here to try and change anything in the city. As a matter of fact, myself and my client absolutely love TRC. We love the art scene. We love the hot water district. We love the people. Everybody's friendly. Everywhere we go, people talk, communicate. It's a great place to be, right? And this purchase that we're proposing is only a small piece of what we've invested in Sierra County and primarily in TRC. So far, my client, besides AB Southwest, he has invested close to $500,000 or just over $500,000 already here in real estate purchases. And we provide rental housing, so we've been buying property, renting it out, and then we buy vacant land in the idea of adding more, providing more housing. And so anyways, just to tell you a little about my client. He's from San Francisco, California. He's been investing in New Mexico for about 10 years, and like I already told you, he loves TRC. It's one of the places we started out investing here. We met Sid back in May of last year. We bought the first property from him, and after that we were hooked, right? Last night, me and my wife stayed at Sid's place at the Pelican. It's a really nice place to stay. I come here 2 or 3 times a week. I stay at the hotels, I eat at the restaurants. I consider myself, this is to be a second residence for me, kind of, even though I don't own a home here. We're deeply invested here, and we'd like to continue to work with you guys in what wouldn't be a win situation for us, but a win-win situation for us, you guys in the community. And so the offer that we made on the land of $70,000 was based off of the appraisal that was made. I asked Mrs. Burnett about purchasing the property. She told me they had to get an appraisal. We didn't try and negotiate nothing. Whenever the appraisal came back, we gave a full price offer. And I'm going to say right here today, just to do better for the community, I know we had asked to split the closing costs 50-50. I will amend that, and we will pay all the closing costs, and we'll pay the $70,000. That way, the city will net $70,000 exactly. That's pretty much it. I could talk all day, but I don't want to take up any more of your time. Does anybody have any questions for me?
Questions? Thank you, Mr.
Well,
Romero.
I'll just throw this out, Mr. Romero. You read the ordinance itself, also besides the purchase agreement.
I'm sorry, what?
Have you also read the ordinance that I prepared, which is what we're doing?
Yes.
Okay. Because I made a point when I was doing my presentation earlier that the purchaser is acknowledging that you're buying the property in as condition, and city's making no representations or warranties regarding the real property, nor whether it can be used for any particular purpose. So you're aware of that language in there?
Yes.
Okay.
And just our intentions are, we understand the topography. It's not very level, right? I'm not sure if you're familiar with the land or not, if you guys have seen it. It's going to take a lot of tractor work and stuff like that we're going to hire local contractors to clean up and get ready for us to put housing in. And we have an idea of putting multi-level housing because the views up there are amazing. So if we build it, so we stagger it, so everybody has good views of the downtown area and the hot water district, we think it can make some really nice housing for the community. And we do understand that it's an as-is condition. There's no guarantees of what we can do, but we hope that we're going to create a win-win situation that you guys would sell us the land and allow us to use it as residential property. So,
Thank you, Mr. Romero.
thank you.
Thank you, sir.
Okay, at this time, I will close this public hearing, and I will stand for a motion to approve final adoption of ordinance number 702, amending the Code of Ordinance by adding a section related to a sale of real property pursuant to NMSA 1978-3-54-1 as presented,
With that one change, right?
with the one correction from west to east. Right? East to west, east to west.
Yeah, okay. Thank you.
You're welcome. Do I have a motion?
Madam Mayor, I move that we adopt ordinance number 702 as you read.
Thank you. Do I have a second? I have a motion and a second to approve the final adoption of ordinance 702 as amending the Code of Ordinances.
And you know, I just thought something else, since Mr. Romero is kind enough to offer that the closing costs will be paid by the buyer. I guess I need to change paragraph B to say that. So I had it here, it's going to be divided equally, but if we're...
Okay, so I would like to amend that motion to add in that Jay will correct the information as to the closing cost fees, correct?
Yes.
And I have a amendment?
Amended motion,
Motion,
yes.
amended second. Okay, is there any further questions, comments, or concerns? Hearing none, all those in favor signify by saying aye. Aye. Those opposed, same sign.
Wait,
It's a final.
It's a final, so you want a roll call, okay. Madam Clerk, would you please call roll?
Honorable Senator Whitehead.
Aye.
Honorable Kathy Clark. is absent. Honorable Ralph Eschler.
Aye.
Honorable Paul Baca.
Aye.
Honorable George Siketi.
Aye.
Motion carries. Thank you.
And I have to say thank you, Mr. Romero, for that concession.
Yes, thank you, Mr. Romero.
Okay.
The next item on our agenda this morning is item G2, public hearing, discussion, action, final adoption of 703, authorizing the issuance of joint utility system improvement revenue bond series 2019A. I'm going to turn this over to Manager Madrid.
Mr. Muirhead, thank you for being here today.
Absolutely.
This is an item that has come before us for publication, and today is for final adoption. Mr. Muirhead?
Yes, thank you, Mr. Madrid, Mayor, members of the Commission. Let me just give you a quick recap. I think you all are very familiar with this, but this is for wastewater system improvements. It's being financed through the USDA, which has the Rural Utilities Services Program, which is a mix of loans and grants. And so in 2016, the USDA gave a letter of conditions which had a loan component of $715,000 and a grant component of $4,515,400. Earlier this year, they added to that to make sure it covered the cost of the project and added a loan of $315,000 and an additional grant of $485,600. So because of how USDA does it and their requirements, we can't just put this into one ordinance and do it collectively. They want to, since the monies were obligated in different years, they want to see two different ordinances. The ordinances in front of you, and I'll just kind of handle them together. I understand they're different public hearings, but they're identical except for the par amounts of the $315,000 and the $715,000. Authorize the bond portion of this in those amounts. It is a pledge of your net system revenues, of which you have some outstanding debt with the NMFA and the USDA. It sets the rate on the 2019 A's, which is the larger amount of $715,000 at 1.625%, which is extremely low in market conditions, and also gives you an amortization payoff period of 40 years, which is again a significant subsidy under this program to be able to borrow for that extended period of time, which results in annual payments of approximately $24,500 a year on the 2009 A's. It's important to note that those are very favorable terms, but should the city decide it wants to repay this note and retire it at any point, or these bonds, the USDA program also provides for prepayment without any penalty or premium at any time, which is a benefit under both these transactions. The pledge is the net system revenues of the utility system. The important part there is it's a special limited pledge. There is no pledge of the city's general obligation, debt authority, or any gross receipts tax revenues, or revenues of any enterprise fund, lodger's tax, things of that nature. If there should ever be a shortfall, the lender can only look to that one revenue stream. The hammer they have under that, just to be clear, is that they can require the city to raise system rates if they believe that that's the problem, that they're too low and can't cover the debt service. But again, the analysis done, this is what they think is manageable. The covenants in the ordinance are consistent with your outstanding debt. There isn't anything added to what you're already doing under your existing obligations to the USDA under the 2016 bonds or the NMFA loans that are outstanding. Most of the ordinance relates to just here's a form of the bond, here's how it works. I think that kind of covers the important parts that are I think you'd be most interested in as the commission. The 2019A is the $715,000 loan. The 2019B is the $315,000 loan. The grant under the $4,515,400 grant was authorized in the USDA RUS loan resolution that the
Commission adopted in 2016, and the $400,000 grant that is part of the second wave of financing will be authorized in the loan resolution, which is item 2 under ordinance resolutions. Wait a minute, that's the wrong one. The next section on the public hearings, yeah, the ordinance resolutions and zoning. Happy to answer any questions. It's a phenomenal transaction in terms of the financial structure and what the benefits to the city is under this particular financing.
Thank you. Do I have any questions from the commission? Questions from Attorney Rubin?
No questions.
Manager Madrid?
No, Mayor, recommend your approval.
And I do have one opponent on this one too, Ron Fenn.
Good morning, Commissioners. I just feel that no public hearing is a public hearing without the public saying something. So I will stand for the public. I want to know one thing, because I've read through these documents. I wonder if you have or understand them. But I'm a pretty simple guy. I want to know, what's the bottom line? What is the cost? The added cost is $715,000. 40 years from now, what is the bottom line? I don't see bottom lines anywhere. We always talk about, oh, wonderful little small incremental interest rate, very insignificant, so nobody should care about it. I get 1.5 or 1 or 2% of my purchases I get back from my credit card company. It comes to me. Okay. I don't pay them interest. That's how I can afford things. You folks just keep borrowing money. Oh, great interest rates, ignoring the fact that your income source, the utilities, all that money is being siphoned off into the general fund to pay for employees that the city does not need. I told City Manager Madrid before he was even hired, I said, when you come here, what you need to do is you need to eliminate a $2 million a year budget deficit, and the only way to do that is to get rid of 2/3 of the city's employment. Sounds harsh, but it's been an abusive system for as many years that I know of. It's a welfare system for selective few at the expense of everybody. And now we'll be paying a little bit more for this, a little more for that, a little more for the next thing. Think, please.
Just real quick, would add that it does require, because it's a debt ordinance, a 75% majority. I know you're absent one member today, so it would require 4 out of 5 people voting in favor of it rather than a simple majority. I just want to throw that out there.
Thank you. Do I have any further comments regarding ordinance number 703? Does the public have anything to say? Thank you. At this time, I will close this public hearing and stand for a motion to approve ordinance number 703, authorizing the issuance of joint utility system improvement revenue bond series 2019A as presented.
So moved, Mayor Whitehead.
Second.
I have a motion and a second to approve ordinance number 703. Is there any further questions, comments, concerns? Hearing none, Madam Clerk, would you please call roll?
Honorable Sandra Whitehead.
Aye.
Honorable Deputy Clerk is absent. Honorable Ralph Fischler.
Aye.
Honorable Paul Baca.
Aye.
Honorable George Tagati.
Aye.
Motion carries. Thank you. The next item on our agenda this morning is the third public hearing. Public hearing, discussion, action, final adoption of ordinance number 704, authorizing the issuance of joint utility system improvement revenue bond series 2019B. Manager Madrid.
Mayor, Commissioners, this is the same principle, same type of action. Mr. Muirhead has touched on it already. The amount is different. Mr. Muirhead, is there anything else?
That's exactly it, Mr. Madrid. The first one was 715,000, this is 315,000. Slightly different interest rate. This was $1,000 a month annual debt service versus the $2,000 a month under the other one. But the ordinances are fundamentally the same.
Thank you. Questions, comments from the commission? Attorney Rubin?
I have no comments. Thank you.
I have one opponent, again, Ron Fenn.
Thank you, Mayor. My comment on this one is, I don't see anything that says, who's this bond going to? Can I buy this bond? Can I buy some of this bond? Is it going to be offered to the public? Because I'd like to get 1.65% interest on money that's now sitting in my bank at 0.5% interest. Is this going to be offered to the public, the people who are going to be paying for this in the first place? Or is this going to go to another financial institution like Capital One for the transfer plan at tax-free interest at expense of the people? Instead of saying, hey, community, you want to back this? You want to buy some of this bond and be part of this community and get a little benefit from it? I don't ever hear any of this. I'd like to hear it. Thank you.
Okay. So to answer that question, the lender in this case is the federal government through the U.S. Department of Agriculture, through their program, the Rural Utilities Service. So the holder of the bond is the USDA for the term of the 40 years. Just to give you a little flavor of if you were to go to the capital markets and do this as where there were public investors, the 40-year term would likely be 15 years. The interest rate would likely be average around 3.5%. You'd have to get a rating. The expenses would be exponentially higher. So this is a subsidized deal for the benefit of rural communities, with the holder of the debt being the U.S. government through the USDA, rather than a capital market transaction with private investors, which would be substantially more expensive to the city.
Thank you, Mr. Muirhead. Manager Madrid.
Recommend your approval.
Thank you. Do I have any further questions, comments, or concerns from the commission? If not, I will close this public hearing and stand for a motion to approve ordinance number 704.
Mayor Whitehead, I'd like to make a motion to approve final adoption of ordinance number 704, authorizing the issuance of joint utility system improvement revenue bonds series 2019B, as presented by Mr. Chris Muirhead.
And do I have a second?
Second.
I have a motion and a second to approve ordinance number 704 as noted. Is there any further questions, comments, or concerns? Hearing none, Madam Clerk, would you please call roll?
Honorable Senator Whitehead.
Aye.
Honorable Kathy Clark is absent. Honorable Ralph Fischler.
Aye.
Honorable Paul Baca.
Aye.
Honorable George Segedi.
Aye.
Thank you. Motion carries. The next item on our agenda this morning is the fourth public hearing discussion action, USDA Rural Development Community Facilities Grant Application for financial assistance for various equipment needs. Manager Madrid.
Again, Mayor, I'll call on Tracy Burnett to come and give us a background on this application.
Mayor, Commissioners, I think you guys are pretty familiar with this. This is our USDA Community Facilities Grant application time. In the past, we have received a street sweeper, a backhoe, and most recently a parked Kubota. We've also processed 2 applications under the public safety portion, and both times received 4 police vehicles for a total of 8 police vehicles. So this is just a standard procedure in order for me to start the application process of applying for equipment needs throughout the various departments. And my request is for you to approve me to process that application and authorize city manager as the authorized signatory authority for those.
Thank you, Tracy. Do I have any questions or comments from the commission? Attorney Rubin.
I have no comment, thank
I
you.
do have one opponent, Ron Fenn.
Probably getting tired of hearing from me. I am an opponent of this because, again, I don't like beggars. We have an anti-begging law in this city, and yet the city is the biggest beggar of them all. How do you live with that idea, or maybe you don't think about it? This city has assets. The biggest asset is in its people, not its tourists, its people. We don't utilize them. In fact, we keep them from even coming to meetings like this. I notice that the majority of our wonderful audience here is all city employees that we're paying for to sit here. And where's the public? Where is the public? We're borrowing money. We want new vehicles. We have more new vehicles in this city than 20 years ago when I came here. We have tons of new vehicles. I watch a utility man driving a big 4x4 pickup truck to read meters instead of walking. That was a walking job. Used to be a walking job. Always was a walking job. Now we're driving street to street with a pickup truck that probably is worth $30,000, $40,000 or more. But it's not just the vehicles. It's the maintenance. It's the extra fuels that we have for every vehicle. It's the insurance that we pay on every vehicle. We have vehicle abuse in this city, and there's not a log in a truck, there's not a log in a vehicle that says that I am using this vehicle for city business. Now I'll go to the bank, I'll go to Walmart, I'll go get a cup of coffee up at McDonald's at the public's expense. These are abuses that have been allowed because of the number of vehicles that we have. The other day I was up on Marie Street and I saw 5 city vehicles, 3 boom trucks, pickup, and a vacuum truck to put in a utility pole. A few years ago I watched a crew of 2 men running back all the way up Broadway, drilling, setting poles. Crew of 2, we got 6, 7, whatever. And why? Why do we have so many? Because, well, we can borrow money, we can get grants, we can beg, we can say that we're poor, while we waste our money on employees that do not have the best interest of the people of this community in mind. There's no pride. Somebody talked about homeowners not having pride in their properties.
Ron, let's get back to the point of this ordinance.
This is, the point of the ordinance is that we have to stop begging. We have to pull up our bootstraps and we have to take care of ourselves. And we got to do it with intelligence. We got to do it with critical thinking instead of dreams. That's what I have to say. Thank you.
Do we have any further questions, comments, or concerns from the commission? Manager Madrid.
Recommend your approval, also include authorizing myself as signatory.
Okay, I will now close this public hearing and stand for a motion to approve the USDA Rural Development Community Facilities Grant application for financial assistance for various equipment needs.
Mayor Whitehead, I'd like to make the motion to approve the application process for a USDA Rural Development Community Facilities Grant application for financial assistance for various equipment needs as presented by Tracy Burnett, and also to authorize the city manager as a signature on related documents to that application process.
Thank you, and do I have a second?
Second.
I have a motion and a second to approve the USDA Rural Development Grant as noted by Commissioner Heschler. Is there any further questions, comments, or concerns? Hearing none, all those in favor signify by saying aye. Aye. Those opposed, same sign. Motion carries. Thank you. The next public hearing is G5. This is a public hearing, Infrastructure Capital Improvements Plan for fiscal year 2021 through 2025. City Manager Madrid.
Mayor, Commissioners, this is a continuation of our ICIP process. You have seen presentations, you have heard from our department heads. Today's particular item is intended to involve the public in general, while Tracy comes down to give us a brief overview. I would invite anyone that has ideas for our ICIP plan for inclusion to be prepared to state them in a minute.
Good morning again, Mayor, Commissioners. Included in your packet was last year's ICIP, and as you may recall, we did a lot of cleanup last year and updating of some of the projects. Just as a quick recap, last week the department heads and I worked together and we gave you a presentation of various needs from our departments, some of which do qualify as ICIP projects. Water improvements, both in the distribution lines and production, wastewater improvement and streets repairs are obviously some of our top concerns within the city. But I'd also like to hear some input on some of the other department needs, such as our recreation improvements at both the parks, the ball fields, the rodeo arena, and our pool. Our police department, of course, electric department, solid waste department, and public buildings are also in need of some type of infrastructure or facility improvements. Also keep in mind that we are required by some of our grant funders to list the projects that are currently in the process of being funded or have a funding application pending or planned. They have to be on our ICIP. This year we're also going to include some of the needs of our SJOA as well to show our support even though they submit their own ICIP. So at this time I'd like to open it up for public input. We will come back to the commission meeting, the final meeting in August, with the full list of projects after hearing the discussion, and request that the commission rank the top 5 for the.
Thank you. Thank you. Okay, this is now opened up. I see that I have Ron Fenn again as an opponent. Would you like to speak in regards to this, or do you have any ideas or any thoughts? I mean, I know your thoughts, but give us some ideas.
Oh, okay. How about we create a system of information for our community? How about if we get information out to the community without having to buy the one newspaper that we have here? Very few items that are on agendas that might interest the public are known by the public. Why am I the only public opponent or proponent? Well, there is no public proponents. Why am I the only member of the public that's here to say something? This should be an embarrassment. This is not a public hearing. Does a tree that falls in the forest and there's nobody around make any noise? Is it a public hearing if there's nobody from the public that speaks? Why is there so little interest in the goings-on in this community?
Ron, let's not worry about the interest of the community. Let's worry about your interest.
No, this is
today.
the interest of the community. This is.
People are aware of our commission meetings. They're invited to our commission meetings, and
Yeah, and we've talked about that time and time again.
yes, sir. So let's talk about some ideas you have other than worrying about the public right now. Okay? I want ideas from you, not from the public.
I don't have all the ideas. The public has the ideas. There are people in the public that have the ideas, and they should be here.
And you've been invited several times by Manager Madrid to come and visit with him, so I suggest that you do that instead of being so unhappy.
Well,
right
then the public really doesn't know anything about what's going on, do they? They don't hear a single point of view other than your own.
The public is invited
And
also, so thank you.
The public is invited. Yeah, thank you.
So do we have any further questions, comments, or concerns from the commission, public, manager?
Mayor, I just want to elaborate a little bit on the purpose of the infrastructure capital improvement plan, when it comes to seeking outside funding, it's a requirement for much of the state and federal funding in the fact that they ask, is it on your ICIP or not? That's one thing. Now, it also shows what investment do you have from other funding. You'll notice that the ICIP shows, asks what funding source you may have. So if we go to the legislature and request that capital outlay, and we've got some funding in place, then they say, well, you've got skin in the game, we're more likely to help you that way. If you have no plan, no idea, if you don't have anything engineered, you're less likely to get funding. When it comes to the governing body and outside entities, the top 5 are really the ones that need to be ranked carefully. Those are the ones that are considered the most. From number 6 on down, as long as they're on the list, then it's okay. For example, we may think that we need a brand new trolley car to promote tourism. That's definitely not as important as our water infrastructure. So if that's on if it's number 27 on our list versus water infrastructure being number 1, that's okay. If we could apply for a national tourism grant to get a trolley car through the state of New Mexico, they would just say, okay, well, it is on their list. It's not in the top 5, but that's okay. It is on their list. It's part of their plan. So anything that's on our list, we should have an idea as part of our overall comprehensive plan. And I'm sorry I use the term master plan and comprehensive plan interchangeably. It's different in different communities. But this plan is very, very important when it comes to applying for funding at the state level, especially in the areas of capital outlay. Capital outlay is going to be an area of opportunity for us this year, since we will be able to determine our own applications. Thank you, Mayor.
Thank you. Is there any further questions, comments, or concerns?
Madam Mayor, if I may, diverge from the ICIP precisely for a little bit. But we've been through a little bit of an ordeal with these last 5 public hearings, and I would like to make a comment on that. These meetings are open to the public. Anyone may attend. It is general knowledge, it's widely distributed that these meetings are held. There is no one standing at the door stopping anyone who wants to attend these meetings from coming in. And a number of people have spoken at these meetings during public comment, and also now with the sessions with the city manager. We do get public comment. The fact that there are not more people out here making comments is due to the fact that the majority of the people in this community trust their city commission to be making the right decisions. You go on the news, and when there are issues in other communities, it's on the TV. There are people, they line up at the door getting into the meetings to protest what's going on in other communities. The fact that we don't have a lot of people in this room at this time is simply due to the fact, as I stated before, that the majority of people trust this commission to be making the right decisions on their behalf. And just because one person disagrees with the actions of this commission does not mean we are excluding the community in any way. And that's all I have to say. Thank you.
Commissioner Segretti, thank you for that
And I'll
comment.
add to that we are in compliance with state statutes and the Open Meetings Act. You properly prepare an agenda in advance of the meeting. It's on our city website. We list the items on the agenda of the public hearing, we advertise it. So when we actually get to the hearing, you have you give everybody adequate time to address the commission. So I mean, I'm concerned with the legalities, and I feel you're in compliance, so I don't know what else we can do. So.
Thank you, Attorney Rubin. And thank you, Commissioner Segretti, Attorney. All right, so at this time, do I have any further comments or questions regarding the infrastructure capital improvements plans for 2021 through 2025 as presented by Manager Madrid? Question?
Yeah, Manager Madrid, there's only 11 items on this ICIP. Should we have more items on here?
Yes.
Is that going to preclude us from
No,
getting additional funding?
no, absolutely not. We should have more items, and we will have more items for the final listing. At that point, we'll take, and it'll be a joint effort between myself. I'm going to take what was discussed at the retreat, what was presented here from the department heads, and anything else. And the input for the ICIP is not limited to today. If you want to bring input to my office and give it to me there, we can do that too. It's a comment period that we have. It's not a single event. So anybody listening to me on the internet or on the radio, come on in. And if you think that we need to build a rail station, now that's a bad example, then come on in and give your ideas, because there may be something that we didn't think of or that we can put on our ICIP for a few years down the road. It's not for this year, it's for the next few years.
I kind of like the trolley idea.
That sounds pretty cool, huh? And Manager Madrid, when is the deadline to actually submit this infrastructure plan?
I believe it's September 1st that it's due, having it been approved, 5th? September 5th.
September 5th, so we still have plenty of time. Again, if you have any thoughts, ideas from the public, we're here to listen to you, hear you, and accept your ideas. And again, Manager Madrid's office is always open, and he'll answer his telephones.
If I could just follow up too, I just wanted to make sure everybody knows this is our second public hearing. We did advertise and hold an evening public hearing as well in conjunction with SJOA. We didn't have attendance, but it was advertised in an evening meeting at 6 o'clock in hopes that we would get some type of public turnout in the evening time. And Commissioner Heschler, the current or last year's ICIP, the prior years was like 3 pages long, but it had a lot of very old visions in it. And so last year we'd opted to shorten it down at the request of DFA. They were requesting people just clean up and get rid of a lot of the old projects and things that were on there. We had stuff on there that had been funded or had already been completed. And then because we had such a one-way door last year with the hospital, we just shortened everything up at that point and in hope of expanding it this year. So,
Thank you. Any further questions, comments, or concerns? I will now close this public hearing, and there is no action on this item. The next item on our agenda this morning is item H, ordinances, resolutions, and zoning. H1, discussion action, resolution number 01-1920, Open Meetings Act and reasonable notice of meetings. City Manager Madrid.
I believe this is a required annual resolution, declaration to be in compliance with the Open Meetings Act. I'll ask Renee to address this item.
Thank you, Madam Mayor, Commissioners, City Manager. Yes, there are no changes. Usually we keep this resolution as the first one of each fiscal year, and we bring it back if we wanted to change meeting date, time, and such. So with this resolution, it's the same one that we've had last year, and there are no recommended changes at this time.
Thank you. Attorney Rubin, do you have any questions or comments regarding the Open Meetings Act?
No, I believe this resolution is contemplated by the Open Meetings Act, statutory Open Meetings Act, so I believe we're compliant, and I believe it's worked well. Most important, I think everybody's happy with the way we're giving notice and the advertising we're doing for our meetings.
Thank you. Commissioners, questions, comments, concerns? Manager Madrid?
Recommend your approval, Mayor.
Thank you. Do I have a motion to approve resolution number 01-1920?
Madam Mayor, I'd like to move for approval of resolution number 1/19/20, Open Meetings Act and reasonable notice of meetings as presented by City Manager Madrid and City Clerk Renee Canty.
Thank you. Do I have a second?
Second.
I have a motion and a second to approve resolution number 01-1920, Open Meetings Act. Is there any further questions, comments, or concerns? Hearing none, Madam Clerk, would you please call roll?
Honorable Sandra Whitehead.
Aye.
Honorable Kathy Clark is absent. Honorable Ralph Eschler.
Aye.
Honorable Paul Baca.
Aye.
Honorable George Segedi.
Aye.
Motion carries. Thank you. The next item on our agenda this morning is item H2, discussion action, resolution number 02-1920, authorizing and providing for the incurrence of indebtedness for the purpose of providing a portion of the cost of acquiring, constructing, enlarging, improving and/or extending its community water systems. Chris Muirhead.
Yes, thank you, Mayor. Members of the commission, this is the resolution I referenced earlier that ties to the second commitment of funds from the USDA. The importance of this, if you look at the recitals, which are all those numbered paragraphs under now, therefore, down to 16, those are all mirrored in the ordinances you've already adopted and are consistent with what's in the other USDA resolutions you've adopted. The key thing about this resolution, really, over the years, by far the most important thing is item 17. This is your formal acceptance of the grant in the amount of $485,600. Obviously, there's a grant agreement at closing, but this is your legislative action to approve that, subject to signing the documents. Happy to answer any questions, but there isn't anything about this that changes what's already in all the other documents or adds any additional covenants or requirements. This is just a step necessary to get the money that you don't have to repay.
Thank you. Do I have any questions from the commission? Questions, comments, concerns? Attorney Rubin, do you have any questions on the resolution?
No, I do not. Thank you.
Manager Madrid.
Just recommend your approval. Mayor.
Thank you. Do I hear a motion to approve resolution number 02-1920?
Mayor Whitehead, I'd like to make a motion to approve resolution number 2/19/20, authorizing and providing for the incurrence of indebtedness for the purpose of providing a portion of the cost of acquiring, constructing, enlarging, improving, and/or extending its community wastewater system as presented by Mr. Muirhead.
Do I have a second?
Second.
I have a motion and a second to approve resolution number 02-19/20 as noted by Commissioner Heschler. Is there any further questions, comments, concerns? Madam Clerk, would you please call roll?
Honorable Sandra Whitehead.
Aye.
Honorable Kathy Clark is absent. Honorable Ralph Eschler.
Aye.
Honorable Paul Baca.
Aye.
Honorable George Segedi.
Aye.
Motion carries.
Thank you all. Yes.
Thank you. The next item on our agenda is H3, discussion action, resolution number 03-1920, approving participation in the program of the South Central Council of Governments, Inc. for fiscal year 2019-2020. City Manager Madrid.
Mayor, Commissioners, this action is to reflect our commitment in the participation of the Council of Governments. The Council of Governments is a good resource for accessing funding, doing collaboration with other communities in our area of the state, and especially in my past experience has been a good resource for Department of Transportation funding. They actually can influence the funding that comes through Department of Transportation, the Department of Tourism, and Economic Development. So I recommend your approval for our participation.
Thank you. Do I have any further questions, comments, concerns, Commissioners? I will stand for a motion to approve resolution number 03-1920.
Mayor Whitehead, I'd like to make a motion to approve resolution number 3/19/20, approving participation in the program of the South Central Council of Governments, Incorporated for fiscal years 2019 and 2020, as presented.
Do I have a second?
Second.
Mayor, excuse me for interrupting.
Yes.
I want to also note that this action would designate you as a designated representative and Commissioner Zagetti as the alternate.
I'd like to amend my motion to include appointments for Mayor Sandra Whitehead and our designee George Zagetti as an alternate to work on this committee.
Thank you. Your amended second.
Second, yeah.
Thank you. Is there any further questions, comments, or concerns? Madam Clerk, would you please call roll?
Honorable Sandra Whitehead.
Aye.
Honorable Kathy Clerk is absent. Honorable Ralph Fessler.
Aye.
Honorable Paul Baca.
Aye.
Honorable George Getty.
Aye.
Motion carries. Thank you. The next item on our agenda this morning is item I, new business. I-1, discussion action, consider the recommendation of the Library Advisory Board to appoint Teresa Hoffner as a new member. City Manager Madrid.
Mayor, the recommendation comes from the board. I have no reason not to concur with that recommendation. Recommend your approval.
Thank you. Commissioners, questions, comments, concerns? I will stand for a motion.
Mayor Whitehead, I would like to move for approval to appoint Teresa Hafner as a new member of the Library Advisory Board,
As recommended.
as recommended by City Manager Madrid and the Library Advisory Board.
Thank you. Do I have a second?
Second.
I have a motion and a second to consider the recommendation of the Library Advisory Board to appoint Teresa Hafner as a new board member. Is there any further questions, comments, or concerns? Hearing none, all those in favor signify by saying aye. Aye. All those against, same sign. Motion carries. The next item on our agenda is item I-2, discussion action, consider the recommendation of the Golf Course Advisory Board and appointment of the new board members. City Manager.
Mayor and Commissioners, the Golf Course Advisory Board has had a couple of resignations for different reasons. They did hold a special meeting Monday night. Do we have the names of the recommended members, Benny?
Yes, they're in the packet. The applications are in the packet. We have,
Is it Don Trevino? Dale Grover?
There were two that were
Yeah, there were
recommended.
two that were recommended.
Finally recommended.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I'm sorry,
Well, there are four in the packet, but
the two that were recommended by the Golf Advisory Board were Darrell Grover and Martin Towner.
Darrell Grover and Martin Towner are the two recommended appointees by the board. And I have no reason not to concur with those recommendations, Mayor.
Thank you. Do I have any questions, comments, or concerns from the commission? I will stand for a motion to approve as recommended.
Mayor Whitehead, I'd like to move that we approve the recommendation of the Golf Course Advisory Board of Mr. Darrell Grover and Mr. Martin Towner to work on the board.
Do I have a second?
second.
I have a motion and a second to approve the two recommendations by the Golf Course Advisory Board, those being Darrell Grover and Martin Towner. Is there any further questions, comments, or concerns? Hearing none, all those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Aye. Those opposed, same sign. Motion carries. The next item is item I-3, discussion action, amendments to the JPA with the Village of Williamsburg for LEPF. Manager Madrid. I think that's law enforcement.
Law Enforcement Protection Fund, yes. Mayor, Commissioners, I had a visit from Mayor Stubblefield regarding the JPA that we have with them for law enforcement protection. That most recently has been, we provide law enforcement protection services for them in exchange for a fee of $20,000. I met with her and actually, because it was a financial hardship, they did actually show me their small cities distribution had been cut by almost 2/3. Their resources are very limited for a small village like that. We can absorb this. She asked that we cut that amount in half from 20,000 to 10,000 for 1 year and see how the revenues look next year, we can absorb this in our budget, and I think as a neighboring community, we should. And I recommend your approval with that change. The only change to the agreement is that the amount is reduced from 20,000 to 10,000 for 1 year.
Thank you. Do I have any questions, comments, or concerns from the commission? Commissioner?
Yeah, I'd like to make the comment that I see that it's a request for 1 year, but when I read the letter has a provision that says instead of the yearly base fee of 20,000, the yearly fee will now be 10,000, which indicates that it's more than 1 year. So, which I don't have a problem with this particular request, but the letter doesn't quite say the same thing as 1 year.
And the agreement has a term in it, but I would encourage the Commissioner to include that in the motion, that it be only for 1 year. That way we're clear.
Thank you. Are there any further questions, comments, concerns? Hearing none, I will stand for a motion.
Mayor Whitehead, I'd like to make a motion to approve amendment to the JPA with the Village of Williamsburg for the Law Enforcement Protection Fund for the 1 year reduction of $20,000 to $10,000.
Chief?
Mayor, Commissioners, that, just be sure that it's not LEPF. That's the JPA specifies there's 20,000 that goes to the city from their general fund, and then there's 20,000 that's law enforcement protection funds. What they're talking about is not LEPF. There was a typo on the agenda. I notified Renee about that the other day. It's only for the 20,000 that's not the LEPF. They want half just for this 1 year only.
Okay.
Just clarify that, sir.
Thank you for your
Thank you.
clarification. So this is not their LEPF, this is...
Their LEPF already
just
comes
the
to us?
Just the JPA. Okay, so, all right.
I'll make an amendment to my motion as indicated by Chief Irvin.
Okay, do I have a second?
Second.
I have a motion and a second to approve the amendment to the JPA with the Village of Williamsburg as noted by Commissioner Heschler and by Chief Aragon. Is there any further questions, comments, concerns? Hearing none, all those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Aye. Those opposed, same sign. Motion carries. Thank you. The next item on our agenda is I-4 under new business, discussion action, approval to submit application for the JD&T Foundation grant for a dog playground at the animal shelter. City Manager and Chief Aragon.
Chief?
Mayor, Commissioners, Mr. Madrid, Renee, this is nothing but a win-win proposition. We had Becky Porter right here, civilian volunteer for the shelter, and my civilian volunteer coordinator, Robin Brodsky. In combination with their assistance, Becky put together this grant. She's done grants before. This is on her own time. There's nothing but good in it. We coordinated with Marty, who's the shelter supervisor. It's for a dog playground. When you want to adopt a dog, you'll be able to go out there, walk on this artificial grass turf. We'll have a obstacle course. The grant is around $39,000 and change. It's a no-match grant, not a cost to us, and you see in there the specifications for it. Becky's done a lot of work on that, and I do thank her so much. So if you have any detailed questions, I'll bring her up to answer them.
Thank you. Questions, comments? Attorney Rubin, do you have any questions or comments?
No, I do not.
Thank you, ladies. Manager Madrid?
Recommend your approval, Mayor.
Thank you. I will stand for a motion.
Mayor Whitehead, I would like to move to approve approval to submit an application for the DJ&T Foundation grant for a dog playground at the animal shelter. as presented by Chief Aragon.
Thank you. Do I have a second? I have a motion and a second to approve, to submit the application for the DJ&T Foundation grant. Is there any further discussion? All those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Those opposed, same sign. Motion carries. Thank you, ladies. Thank you, Chief. The next item on our agenda this morning is item J, reports. City Manager, do you have a report this morning?
I have a few items briefly, Mayor. The first one is we will be commencing spraying for mosquitoes in the next week or so. And we do that in an attempt to control them during the monsoon season. The spraying generally lasts about 3 months, I think. We do have some residents that prefer that we do not spray near their property. If they call us and let us know, we will not spray on their property. They can call the city clerk's office, and the clerk will let us know, and we won't spray in their property. The next thing is we had another major, although not citywide, water leak on June the 23rd and June the 24th. And I know, Mayor, you had wanted me to mention the employees that worked on that, because they did work almost 24 hours straight to get that rectified. And the names of the employees that worked on that are Otto Viena, Jesus Navarro, Jesse Cole, Ramon Sanchez, Victor Valdez, Ezekiel Alvarez, and Tim Hanna. They were just completely played out. They had to go home and rest. It wouldn't be safe for them to work the next day. We had another leak around the same time. We called in a contractor to handle. Just as some additional information, I think we're going to be hiring some temporary employees so we can get caught up on our water leaks. We also have looked at the reason for so many leaks, because it seemed that there was a pattern of we would fix a leak on a block and then another leak would start on the same block or the next block. Well, what was determined was that the pumps in the area, they're somewhat dated. When they brought the pressure back up after the leak was repaired, it wasn't gradual. They're not adjustable. So it was a hammer effect of the water just going in at 100% pressure right away. That can cause leaks through the vibration and the hammer effect. So what we're going to be doing immediately is replacing some of those pumps so that they can bring the pressure up gradually and avoid some of those self-caused leaks. That's going to be our priority. Doing all of that at the same time, we just don't have the resources for it. We do have emergency funds set aside for this kind of thing. We're going to start using them. We will be utilizing contractors more also, so that we can stay on top of things and get in a better position. We've been constantly behind on 8 or 10 leaks at a time, not being able to catch up. So we're going to devote more resources to it in that form. So hopefully the pumps will reduce some of the leaks, and our additional resources will be able to help us get caught up. So that's the update on that. I have a letter from DFA to the mayor approving our interim budget that was submitted. That's a big deal. DFA goes through your cash balances, your projections on revenues, expenditures. Putting that together was no easy task. We still need to submit our final one. Our final one will be modified for actual cash balances, preliminary actual revenues, and we'll need to incorporate some of the capital items that we didn't have in here, just because we didn't know what would be delivered and what wouldn't be by June 30th. Those things will be incorporated into our final budget. That final budget will be presented to you at our next meeting. Other than that, just a word on what you mentioned earlier and the credibility of the commission and city government in general, Mr. Zagetti. I think that we should name Tracy Burnett our chief begging officer, because when I say that we go out and beg, I say it with pride. I really do. And when we beg, we get, not because they like me or you or anyone in particular in the community. It's because the city of TRC has credibility. It has credibility in that they ask to see our financial statements. They ask to see our comprehensive plan. They look at the trends that we have going. Especially the federal government will not grant or lend or assist in any way if they don't feel that you have the resources and the capability. And one thing that I have noticed between TRC and some other cities is that at the Roundhouse, we don't do enough begging. So we're going to do a lot more begging. And I was kidding with one of my friends the other night about the amount of grant and finance money that we get here in just the short time that I've been here. It's a lot. It's a lot. And I was kidding that, I'm going to give Tracy a couple of weeks off so she doesn't give us so much money. It creates work for us. But I really am kidding about that. But it all comes back to credibility, financially, administratively, and we have that, and that's what generates money for us. I just wanted to make that clear. That's my report, Mayor.
Thank you, Tracy. Attorney Rubin, you have a report.
Short report, thank you.
Let's start at this end. Commissioner Zagetti.
Well, I've said a bunch already today.
Well, you can say some more.
Well, just to continue on with what the city manager said, if we didn't go out beg for this money, the grants or the loans, I can't imagine what our residents would be paying in taxes and for their utilities in order to fund all the work that needs to be done. For a community our size, that we could not afford to do a fraction of this work using only the financial resources available in this town. I'll go stand out on the street corner with my hat in hand and begging for money if it means that our residents don't have to pay for it out of their pockets.
Thank you. We'd really be a ghost town if we didn't beg, right?
Right. Well
Right.
said.
Commissioner Baca.
Nothing.
No report. Commissioner Heschler.
No report.
No report. And again, the only report I have is I would like to extend a big thank you to all of our city employees, the ones that work hard. I know there was one that was left off the list. Here was Brian Bean. I did see Brian out working with all the other guys, and I know that they were working on one leak and another one would pop up, and I would go around and tell them, well, there's one over here and one over there, and so they were working as fast as they could. And again, thank you. Thank you to all the employees for your long years of service. I know there's many of you out there that have really been dedicated to the city of TRC. I know that we're fixing to have a retirement from Chief Mike, not Chief, but Assistant Chief Mike Apodaca in the next few days. We'd like to wish him well in his retirement and enjoy that retirement out there. And thank you for all your years of service to not only the community, but also to the TRC Police Department. Congratulations. And also a reminder that we will not have public comment at the meeting of July 24th, but there will be a public meeting here at the chambers with the city manager at 6 p.m. that evening. So again, a reminder, no public comment on the 24th, but you can meet and visit with the city manager. And that's all I have. Thank you. The next item on our agenda this morning is item K, executive session. We have K1, real property, various properties pursuant to 10-15-1H8. Do I have a motion to go into executive session?
Mayor Whitehead, I move that we go into executive session for item 1, real property, various properties pursuant to 10-15-1H8.
Thank you. Do I have a second?
Second.
I have a motion and a second. Is there any further questions, comments, concerns? Madam Clerk, would you please call roll?
Honorable Sandra Whitehead.
Aye.
Honorable Kathy Clark is absent. Honorable Ralph Eschler.
Aye.
Honorable Paul Baca.
Aye.
Honorable George Takei.
Aye.
Motion carries. We will go into executive session as soon as the room clears.